Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another edition of Foodie Fridays. So for this Foodie Fridays, I'm using a tried and true for sure, but I'm switching things up a little bit with you guys for the first time, so I'm a little nervous. So this is usually my go-to crawfish chowder. However, crawfish is a little pricey right now where I live in southern Louisiana, and I know a lot of y'all don't have access to crawfish. So I thought I'd switch things up and use crab. Now, however, a little piece of me is dying inside because I'm using canned crab meat, and here in Louisiana we usually use like lump crab meat, but again, it's mega expensive right now. So I'm trying things to be a little bit budget friendly and to accommodate everybody across the US that's watching this. So I'm going to be using the canned crab there and see how that works out. So for this recipe, I usually make this for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to switch things up and not have your usual like turkey and stuffing or ham all the time. Especially where we live, we have such good access to food and flavors. Why not switch it up a little bit? But we make this throughout the year, and especially with fall and the winter months coming up, this is definitely a go-to. And guys, this recipe is so quick and easy to make. You could even put this in the crock pot as well, and it would probably do great. I haven't tried it like that, but I'm sure it would be fine. So the ingredients you're going to need are butter. You're going to need 1/4 cup of butter. You're going to need half of a bunch of green onions, which I've already chopped there, as you can see. You can add more or less depending on your taste there. You're going to need a half of a cup of butter to add to your actual soup. So you're going to need some butter to saute your green onions, and then you're going to need some butter to add to your soup mixture. You're going to need, if you're using crawfish, you're going to need 2 pounds of crawfish tails. I'm just assuming that I'm going to use all 3 of those cans of crab. You can use less or more if you want as well. So I'm going to have in the description box below whether you're using crawfish or crab. This would also be great with shrimp, I'm sure, as well. Then you're going to need 2 cans of condensed cream of potato soup, 1 can of cream of mushroom, 1 can of whole kernel corn, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of half and half, which is that total thing of 16 ounces as you see there. And the recipe calls for cayenne pepper, which it calls for 1/2 teaspoon, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is a lot of kick. But I'm actually going to just use some Cajun seasoning. Now, I usually do use the cayenne for when I use crawfish, but being that I'm using crab, I'm going to go a little bit milder and use the Cajun seasoning. All right, guys, so that's the ingredients that you need for this. I told you, simple ingredients. And guys, this recipe does not take long at all. After you saute your green onions and your crab or your crawfish, you're just gonna throw that in with your soup mixture and you're pretty much done. All right, this is so easy, and I get requests for this all the time. It is a go-to. People want it for gatherings and events. They just love this recipe. It is highly requested. So the first thing I'm going to do is melt some butter in that pan back there in the back, and I'm going to go ahead and saute my green onions, my butter, and then I'm going to throw that crab in there too, just to marry the flavors of the butter and the green onions. I don't think I'm going to film that for you guys. I'm just going to show you at the end what it looks like, and I am going to film putting everything in the pot. So let's get started. All right, guys, so this is how the green onions should look. I just put my crab in there. This is the first time I've ever used this kind of crab, so it's already cooked, so I just heated it through along with the green onions, and now I'm going to get started on my chowder mixture. All right, y'all, so now we're going to add our 2 cans of your cream and potato soup. You're going to add 2 of those to go in there. You're going to add your 1 can of cream of mushroom, and you're going to add your drained can of corn. Make sure you drain it. You don't want that extra liquid in there. And then make sure you're adding your 4 ounces of softened cream cheese, and make sure it's softened, because if it's not softened, it's going to be a lumpy mess. I did that the first time, a couple of times making this. It wasn't softened enough, and I have a trick. I use actually just a whisk to whisk everything together, and it breaks it up just fine. So I'm going to add all these things together, and you're going to bring this to a low boil, and you're going to boil it for a few minutes, have it come to a boil, and then have it go back down to a simmer, and then we're going to add our other ingredients. So let's get started. All right, y'all, so this is how you want it to look. It's nice into a slow rolling boil, and you want to make sure that, I didn't film it, but you're going to whisk almost the entire time until it gets to that boil, because if not, all your stuff is going to stick at the bottom, including that cream cheese, and it will burn. That has happened to me in the past as well, so live and learn, and you will find out what works and what doesn't work, and you definitely want to stir the whole time. So now we're going to stir in our half and half, which is 16 ounces, so that's the entire container here for me. So I'm going to stir that in. I'm also going to stir in my crab and my green onions as well. So, and I forgot to mention earlier too that you want to put a can of milk for each cup of soup that is in your soup. All right, so make sure to add that milk, because if not, you're not going to have any liquid at all, and you definitely need that for the soup. So we've got the half and half that we just put in, the 16 ounces, and that will definitely give it that rich flavor that it needs. So I'm going to stir that up. I still have it on medium-high heat, so I'm going to let that kind of just warm up. You don't really have to cook it any. And then I'm going to go ahead also and add my crab and my green onions, and then I'm going to add my seasoning to it. So I'm going to dump the entire thing of crab and green onions in here, and try not to spill it all everywhere. But again, this is the first time I've used crab. I've used crawfish every time, and it really tastes good with the crawfish, but just trying to switch things up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. I'm going to stir that up, and if y'all aren't focused, there we go. My camera is acting a little cray-cray here. So let's go ahead and whisk in that crab and those green onions. This looks like it's going to be super yummy. And this is a chowder consistency, guys. It's exactly what it tastes like. Add your salt and pepper and your Cajun seasoning or your cayenne to your liking and to your taste. Remember, you can't take out, but you can always add more in. So rule of thumb there. All right, so I'm going to let all those flavors marry. I am going to add some pepper to mine. I usually don't add regular pepper to my crawfish kind, but I am for this kind, for my crabs. We'll see how that's going to work out. And then I'm just going to sprinkle in some of this Cajun seasoning. I'm just eyeballing it. We like it to have obviously a little bit of spice. It won't have any seasoning flavor if you don't add it in there. And like I said, I usually use the half a teaspoon of the cayenne, which gives it a definite spicy kick. But I'm going to go a little milder today, even though this is spicy. It's got cayenne in it. But we're going to try that out. And like I said, you can always add more, but you can't take out. So I'm going to let these flavors marry, and then I'm going to taste it and see if it needs a little bit more. I'm actually probably going to add a little bit more right now, because I know we like it a little bit spicy. And let these flavors marry, like I said, and we'll come back and check on it. All right, y'all, so this is the final product. Once you've added your seasoning and the half and half, you're letting all those flavors just marry together. So I've just turned mine off the heat. I'm gonna let it sit here for about 5 minutes so all my spices can incorporate together. I did add a little bit more of the Cajun spice because it just wasn't spicy enough for my taste. I probably should have added the cayenne. That usually gives it the kick that I want. So if you like a kick, add that cayenne. It definitely does take it up a notch as far as level of the spices and the flavors here. So I'm going to plate it and let you know what I think after we eat, since this is the first time I've made it with crab versus crawfish, and which I like better. So I'm going to plate it and I'll let you know. All right, y'all, so the deciding verdict on the soup with the crab in it versus the crawfish is that we like the crawfish better, but it's probably just because we've always made it like that. It was really good. The flavor was still there. Everything was still there that I wanted. It's just if I used crab again, I would probably splurge and do the lump crab meat because it was just a little thin. But I know a lot of soups have that kind of crab in it where it is thin like that, and it's a soup. You don't have a lot of, you know, lumpness in there as far as anything at the bottom, but you definitely do have the potatoes from the potato soup. You have the corn, so you have all that in there as well as far as some hearty ingredients and whatever protein you choose. Like I said, shrimp would probably be a good option, so I might even try that next time just to see how it all works together. But crawfish is the go-to for us, and we really enjoy the crawfish in it. So if you have access to crawfish, I recommend doing it like that because it really is good. So guys, give this video a thumbs up if you're loving the Foodie Fridays each week, and hit that subscribe button if you're not with me already, because I'd love to have you a part of the YouTube family here. And y'all make sure to come back and let me know if you made it and how you liked it. And if you tweaked it in any way, please let me know. I'm always curious about that with my recipes. Love you guys so much, and y'all have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.